Welcome back to another special episode of the RissKy Powerhouse. We're sitting here coming off of a well-enjoyed Memorial Day. I would like to thank Erica McCall for coming on the show. Appreciate you. Yeah, just give the people, a small little background of who you are and what you represent and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. My name is Erica McCall, like you said. My nickname is Bird because my last name is McCall. So like McCall, like a bird. So a lot of people call me Bird, and I got that name from college when I went to Stanford. But yeah, Stanford graduate, was drafted in 2017 to the Indiana Fever. Played 5 years professional basketball, still playing. And originally from Bakersfield, California, so West Coast girl.
For sure. And how was that West Coast upbringing? I'm from Virginia, so Southeastern Virginia. The Michael Vicks, the Allen Iversons. I'm from that area.
Okay,
Those guys grew up 20 minutes away from where I'm from.
nice.
So that's my mentality. Kind of like a small city. It's fast a little bit, but it's kind of got a countryside as well, close to the beach and all of that stuff. So is
Yeah.
Bakersfield like Southern California as well?
We're like Central California, so we're like in the midst of everything. So we're 4 hours, like all driving distance, 4 hours from San Francisco, 4 hours from San Diego, 2 hours from LA, 4 hours from Vegas. So yeah, we're like a nice little central location where we can get to different locations easily. We're much like a desert, very hot. We kind of resemble Vegas and Phoenix weather. Like we can get to the 110 type weather. So it's really hot out here. But yeah, I love it. I love the heat. I love Bakersfield. I love where I'm from. I love the West Coast. So it's a dope city.
Yeah, so how was Bakersfield High School and Ridgeview High School, and coming through Bakersfield, when did you know okay, like I could take basketball seriously? Was it through AAU, or did you have a parent that ushered you into it, or how did basketball come about?
Yeah, so my dad's a basketball coach. He's been a coach literally my entire life. Before I was born, he was coaching. So he's the one that kind of directed me into playing basketball. Both of my parents were athletes. My mom ran track in college at Northern Arizona. My dad played basketball at Cal State University, Bakersfield. So that's where they met. And that's, where I came about in Bakersfield. So he's always been my coach. And so once I started to take basketball more seriously, I remember this conversation we had in my backyard, and he said, is this something you want to take seriously, want to do, for real? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And he's like, okay, well, there's these three things, you got to do to become successful in basketball, and that's, or really in life in general. And that's, keep God first, school, than basketball, and so that was like, and then the fourth kind of tidbit he had was like, and always listen to me. So those are like the foundation of my life, foundation of how I started basketball. And when I used them, for everyday life, for ball, for school, whatever it was, it allowed me to just stay focused, stay grounded, and to always remember what my goals were. And so from that conversation, that's where it all started. And he got me into AAU, and I started playing in Bakersfield, and ended up shifting to go play in Los Angeles. And really, when I started play in Los Angeles, a Los Angeles AAU team, my basketball career skyrocketed. And
And
I
if you
was
don't,
dedicated.
oh my bad, I don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
But if you don't mind me asking, when you went to Los Angeles, what team was that in particular? AAU.
It was Cal Sparks, so it's focused kind of out of Long Beach, really the whole Los Angeles area, but we practiced in Long Beach. And from there, like I was able to get national recognition, because when I was playing in my local AAU team here in Bakersfield, we were kind of like getting like real small D1 schools and like barely anyone to come to our games. And I remember like when we were playing in like one of the tournaments, we saw the Cal Sparks play, and everyone, fans, all the college coaches were surrounding them. It was like a packed jam. I was like, dang, this is so cool. And the next year I ended up playing on that team. So it was really cool, full circle moment for me to be on that team. And from there, I got recruited by teams like UConn, Stanford, UCLA. Those are my top three. I ended up picking Stanford. But high school was, I'm passing over high school. High school was a dope experience. I like to call it my wonder years. I was like,
Sure.
looking back at my stats and stuff, like I can't believe like the stuff that I was doing back then. It was like true glory days, but I was balling back then, and I guess that's the reason why I'm here today.
Yeah, for sure. What was your senior year averages coming out of Ridgeview?
I just saw them, so it's not like perfect, but if I remember correctly, it was like 21 points, 16 rebounds, and 10 blocks, like 9.5 blocks, one of those, like around, I average triple double essentially in my senior year.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So you was playing the five?
Yes.
And when you came out, you then shifted to a forward spot, or did you play the five coming out, or did your size kind of match up to the next level?
Yeah, it kind of matched up. I ended up transferring more into the four. When I was at Stanford, I was just more of a center. Although I brought the ball, I did a little bit of everything in high school, but when I went to Stanford, that's when I really transitioned to become like a true four.
Exactly. So, because I noticed through your Stanford years, your junior year was a year you started, your free throw came through
Mhm.
and you started taking that three. Who ushered you? And I'm sure there was somebody that, grabbed you by that hip and day to day worked on that jump shot. Who was that person that, because player development, that's one thing that people kind of always gloss over. They kind of usually um credit the player for just working hard, but it's usually a person that usher them and teach them, or give them the next gear to understand how to get better in a particular way. So who is that particular coach that got that free throw and got that three going?
For sure, it was my coach, Amy Tucker. She was a post coach at Stanford. I remember when I first came in from high school, I had like this wide base when I shot my free throws. Because I remember I shot like just like Paul Gasol, just super wide base. And like, she was like, maybe you should bring your feet in a little bit. So I changed my free throw when I got to Stanford. And so that improved when I got there. And then really, I wasn't shooting threes. Like I shot threes in high school, but I knew I wasn't like the best 3-point shooter. So like, Tara was like, yeah, I just kind of strayed away from that. But as I progressed into, becoming a better shooter in school, I was just shooting deep twos, like always deep twos, deep twos, deep twos, deep twos. My coach was like, Bird, you're shooting so deep. Why don't you just step behind the line and shoot threes? And it was like the biggest deal. I was like, so you're saying I can shoot threes? Because if I would have shot threes before that, I would have got in trouble. But
Right.
she gave me the green go to shoot threes. I'll never forget the day. And the next game, I made 3 threes. I was 3 for 5. So yeah, that was a pretty dope story.
Yeah, and it's usually the confidence, opportunity, and just confidence and opportunity that gives you the chance to shine that light on different aspects of your game, grow as a player, and usually in women's basketball, the it's more long term in college. And I think the NBA is starting to get back to that with the NIL, and you starting to see more kids. You see the TCU boys going back. You see UNC guys going back. Multiple dudes who could have came out in the bottom of the first round or even mid first round, some second round guys. But it's good to just see that dudes are actually taking it seriously in terms of the progression, so that when they get to the league, they're prepared products rather than getting to the league and trying to develop into this or that, and you kind of depending on the coach and the situation and everything to line up, and you may be out the league in 5 or 6 years when maybe if you would have stayed 2 or 3 years in college, your career could have been 10 to 12 years. You just never know.
For sure. That's a great point. I never hear anyone talk about NIL, talking about longevity and improvement of anyone's game. Usually just talking about monetization, with, brand deals and all that. So that's a great point. I never thought
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, exactly. So in Stanford, who are some of your favorite teammates? Coming through, you played 4 years, right?
Mhm.
In Stanford, who were some of your favorite teammates, and who were some of the girls that came through, or women, excuse me, by that time, that came through that were more memorable?
For sure. One of my favorite teammates of all time is Janae Bunke. For those who do not know, was an All-American. She was the best player in college basketball. My freshman year was just her senior year. She went on to play in the league, and now like she's big on ESPN. You probably seen her face all over ESPN at
Oh
one
yeah.
point in time. But anyways, she was my senior, so like she really took me under her wings, and she was just an amazing person, amazing player. I learned a lot of leadership underneath her, and she used to always take me to Taco Bell. She used to hit me up like late at night, ask me if I want to go to Taco Bell. So she's definitely one of my favorite teammates. Another would definitely be Carly Samuelson. She's another amazing player, easily the best shooter that I've ever played with. Just 3-point sniper. The whole Samuelson sisterhood hood, you know, that's it's 3-point shooting in there. But I played with her and her sister Bonnie. But me and Carly had a special bond because we were the same class, and she was just really cool, just always kept me grounded, just always kept me laughing, and just the sweetest person. So she's always be one of my favorite teammates.
So if you had to take out of all 4 years, you said you slid to the 4 a little bit, so we're gonna drop you at the 4. If you
Yeah,
had
for
to
sure.
if you had to build a starting 5 out of your 4-year teammates, who would be your starting 5, and who would be your? I'm gonna give you one backup. Somebody got a sub.
Wow, I've never got that question before. That's a great question. Okay, so I'll play 4 because I'm in it.
Got to.
I'm in my starting lineup, so I'll play 4. Janae will play 5. Let's see here. At the number 1 position, I will take Amber Orange. She was a really
Okay.
great point guard. She's from Texas. She doesn't say any, like you would think she's like someone who's mute because you would say something to her and she would just stare at you. She just doesn't speak, but balls like crazy. So I would take her at my 1 for sure. At my 2, at my 2, wow, this is a great question.
You got to put your shooter there, don't you?
Yeah, I'll put my shooter at the 3. I'll put her at the 3. Yeah, I'll put her at the 3.
See, I'm
I was gonna go one. Yeah, I was gonna
foreshadowing.
go back, start for the 1 and go 3. But Carly would definitely be the 3. Absolutely, sniper. Like she'll make it. Like she's one of those shooters where like even if she misses, you think she's gonna make it. Like it's just pure. But my number 2, that's tough. I'm gonna go with my other classmate, Brianna Roberson. She's actually from Los Angeles, and she's just quick, and she's a great leader. It was like us. Those are my 2 classmates that I finished out with my senior year, which is Carly Sam and Brianna Roberson. And then coming off the bench, oof. Okay, let me go back to like I want to go deep in my class. Let me see what's coming out. Oh man, it's tough. You want a 4? You want 3? You want? It doesn't matter.
Six man. I mean, that's
6
a
man is
that's
6
a
man.
position. That's the best. That's the next man up.
Let me think like Tara. Who would Tara have as a 6 man? 6 man, I would take my other teammate, Lily Thompson.
Okay.
She's out of Texas as well. She didn't get to finish up with. She didn't finish up at Notre Dame, but just an amazing leader. She played my freshman year. She was like our starting point guard or starting like 2 guard like my freshman year. And she was just really strong, can get to the basket, can knock down the 3, great pull up. So I'll take Lily Thompson.
So when I think college basketball, the first thing that comes to mind is UConn to me, women's basketball in my mind. UConn, Tennessee, Stanford. So being that you coming through one of the more prestige women's basketball programs, what were some of the more tough battles in terms of opposing programs that you faced throughout your years, especially in the years where you played more significant time?
For sure. Probably when I was playing the least amount of time, it was UConn. And that was like always a rival. But my junior and senior year, we didn't play UConn. So it would definitely be Tennessee. We always had a battle with them. Always. And we never could beat them at their place, and they never could beat us at our place. So it was always a battle with them. Cal, Berkeley, that's our school rival. Stanford and Cal are big rivals. So we always had battles with them, like no matter what, like no matter. I think we lost to Cal 1 time in my Stanford career, but like no matter like the amount of times that we won, it was always a tough game for us. And another battle for us, I would say Gonzaga. Actually, it's like opponent that many people wouldn't think of, but for Stanford, like we always struggle with Gonzaga, even like to this day. Like I'm sure Stanford's gonna play Gonzaga again this year, and it's gonna be tough. Either we lose to them or it's a tough game, always. So.
Yeah, Gonzaga and men's basketball, they usually have those guys, that stay 3-4 years, and they usually have a more polished program in terms of just the mental aspect of how guys come about the game, knowing their roles, knowing what the approach is for the team, rather than having, just a high-end talent player with just a bunch of role players around them. They more so have a system where everybody know where to be. So Gonzaga is one of those names that doesn't surprise me at all.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So
yeah.
coming up during your draft process, I'm sure is a very exciting time for you and your family. How was that approach before the draft? Coming out through your senior year, things coming into a conclusion, and you're getting ready to come out of Stanford. How was those last couple months?
Yeah, so like I physically prepared myself for the draft. I prepared myself scholastically, so I knew I wanted to get drafted. I knew it would be hard for me to try to, even impossible to try to for me to graduate after I got drafted. So I set myself up to finish a quarter before school ended. So I didn't have to do any school. Once I was done after the NCAA tournament, I was done with school. So I set myself up and mentally, and my coaches were talking to me. Of course, my sister DeWanna Bonner played in the league. She was in the league probably about 7 years before I got drafted. So I've had 7 years of wisdom, 7 years to get to watch my favorite player ever, get to ball out, against people that I was going to potentially play against. And so I had time to study the game, time to just really embrace it. And so, the coming months before I got drafted, I actually was playing terrible. I was went from averaging 18 points to averaging 4 or 6 points. And so all the way up until it was mid Pac-12 season, all the way up until the end of the Pac-12 season. And so it was tough. I was I didn't think I was going to draft. Every time a coach came to practice, it threw me off. I would practice so bad. And so I just didn't know what my draft story was going to be like. But I ended up having a really good NCAA tournament, Pac-12 tournament. And that ended up, boosting my draft stock up. And so when it came to draft day, or when it came to them, inviting me to the draft, I was really surprised. I thought I was going to, be one of those person that, they call from home, and I was going to have my own little party, but they invited me to the draft. And so that was really cool because my sister got to experience that. So yeah, those couple of months, it took a lot of preparation. It was hard because, like I said, I had a rigorous study schedule because I knew I was going to have to graduate a quarter early. But my coaches, my parents, my family, all prepared me for that. So it was worth a while.
Yeah, for sure. And you spoke on DeWanna Bonner, and I seen a small story about that. Her being in Connecticut, playing in Connecticut for the Sun. How were you guys raised in the same household, or are you siblings from a distance, or how was that relationship, and was there any? Sure, if it was close, there was some battles coming up. So how was that time? Basically sharpening iron. Iron sharpening iron throughout the course of your upbringing.
Yeah, so my sister, we have the same father, different mothers. So she grew up in Alabama, where my dad is from. I grew up in California. So she would come down when we were younger to California. But of course, as you get older, you want to hang out with your friends. You got your own AAU team that you got to play with in the summer. So I started to see her less and less until she got drafted and we can go travel and see her. And so we never really had an opportunity to play against each other, to really practice with each other, none of that. And we weren't as close as sisters as we are today until, I got into the league. And so really it was just me just watching her games, going to her games, when she would come out to California and play the Sparks or play Phoenix, we would go watch her. And I would just I just thought she was the coolest person ever. I was that's my sister, even though we weren't the closest, and we have a 8-year age difference. Fun fact, we have the same birthday.
Wow.
It was it was still, not the same relationship that we have today. So for me to get drafted and then being able to see my sister more when I play against her, and then we actually had the opportunity to play on the same team overseas, that really built our bond. And so I'm really grateful for the game of basketball because it's really brought my whole family together, especially me and my sister.
For sure, that's A1. Especially with the space and the separation. Being afforded the ability now to rekindle that relationship definitely it speaks volumes, just because that takes effort. As we
Yes.
get older and we start to embark on our own journeys, build our own brands, build our we're in our own lane. Sometimes you're just running with your head down, but to actually rekindle a relationship takes time to look up and breathe and take time to mold that. So I'm actually I'm proud of you for doing that. If anybody told you, that's big. A lot of people
Thank
kind of
you.
throw that stuff to the side, but that stuff is
Yeah.
that's kind of invaluable stuff that you can't really put a value. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was something that we both wanted. We both wanted to be closer sisters. We're sisters, we wanted to be close, and we both play basketball. We both have so much in common. We have the same birthday. So it was we wanted to be closer, but I think just with the space and everything and us being, different ages, it was difficult for us. But now that I'm an adult, I have the opportunity to be able to see her more and for us to be able to communicate about adult-like things. The relationship was able to build more.
For sure. So when we start to get to the chapter of the WNBA, before we talk about your particular story, let's just try to revisit some of the course of the WNBA from your perspective. A lot of people not raised up big on the WNBA. It just got started in 97. I was born in 96. So, I'm about 1 year older than the WNBA. So to see where it's progressing now with the course of social media is good to see things starting to get going a lot faster, with compound interest in terms of the viewership and people like myself trying to get involved through minds like yours. So when I think about the WNBA, I seen a 30 for 30 on the Houston Comets, and they talked about Cheryl Cooper and Tina Thompson, and that stretch from, I guess, pretty much every year of that team's existence until 2011. They had winning seasons except one in 2004 or 5. They had one losing season, but it's just good to see franchises like that thrive. And if you're considering an expansion in the WNBA, as I've been hearing looming around or whatever, that should be a priority to get the Houston Comets back, just because of what they have established for the league. Like, that is pretty much the foundation of the league. That's the Boston Celtics of the WNBA in a way. That's kind of the Bill Russell thing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, the Houston Comets, they're the foundation of the league. And I remember I was watching a documentary as well, just saying that they were like a team that, no one really thought, could be, this super great team, but they just came together and, they won those championships back to back to back. It's crazy. It's always sad to think that, yes, 4 championships. It's wild. So it's always crazy to think that they're not in this league today, because they are the foundation of this league and they were so successful. So absolutely, if there's expansion, I know there's a lot of people rooting for the Houston Comets to come back. I know teams want a team in Canada. That's big talks of that as well. And a team in Oakland in the Bay. And I think that would be absolutely great. I, played at Stanford, which is, it's not technically in the Bay, but we like to claim the Bay up north. So I would love to have a team up north. And I think it'll be very fun. I think, along with, we got the Warriors out there, they would think they would really support, having a women's team. And you have the great players like Steph Curry, like Draymond, that love the women's game, that can break down the women's game. I think it's important to have NBA teams support WNBA teams. They're like our big brother, really they fund the WNBA. So it's important to have those teams be out there supporting us. And so I think those are the 3 best places for expansion. I always think there should be a team in Tennessee. Tennessee's a great women's basketball state. There would be huge support. Yes, exactly. With Pat and, her legacy, I think that, Pat Summitt, I think her legacy will just bring fans, would bring great basketball. And so that's another team. I think that would be really good.
So you started to name some cities, that can possibly, I'm glad you went straight down the road of what exactly I needed. So me as a fan, I'm starting to get more into the NBA, and, we're getting to an age where now I'm actually funding my own lifestyle entirely and all of that stuff. So when you start to think about, like, as a kid, you want to go to NBA games, but if your parents not into the NBA, you're not going to NBA games. That's just pretty much how it is. So I can go to games myself now. So a WNBA is definitely going to be on my radar, trying to get out there to Chicago in July.
Yes.
try to get that going this year. So what would you say is an away arena that you say every time you go to this particular city and play this team, this is an arena that gives you the essence of what the WNBA feels like?
I would say Las Vegas or Minnesota. Those arenas really, and it's really impressive what Las Vegas has been able to do. Just be a successful team. It's always tough, for a new team to move to a different city, a different coach, all that. They've been successful from the jump. And then the atmosphere that they built with Vegas, and Vegas can be a tough market because it's not so local. Vegas is known for their tourism, new people coming in. And so, usually WNBA markets are based upon the locals come, watching every game, but they've done a phenomenal job at advertising, what Las Vegas is, what the Aces do. And so you got to go to a Vegas game or a Minnesota Lynx. Minnesota is rocking it's loud in there every time. They always get a great amount of fans. But this year, I'm hearing that Seattle is leading in attendance. So that's that. They just got a new arena. So that may be the place for you to visit next.
So Breanna Stewart played for Seattle, right?
Correct.
Okay, see, I'm starting to get it going.
There we go.
Maya Moore played for Minnesota, right?
Yes.
Okay, see, I got to get the top end people first. Once I get the top end, then we can start to figure out the middle, and then we start to figure out the teams and all of that good stuff.
Exactly.
But Breanna, I heard her story when I was in college when she was coming through UConn, right?
Yes.
Man, that girl, man, she's an accomplished person. Like her accomplishments just alone, ridiculous. She can stop right now. She's going to the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what they did at UConn, UConn was kind of like during her tenure at UConn, they're kind of like the Houston Comets. They won 4 championships in a row, under Breanna Stewart, and so they're a phenomenal team. She's a phenomenal player. There's this word, everyone's throwing around the word generational. There's, describe, it's kind of been a debate between Asia Wilson and Breanna Stewart and, who's better. I'm not deciding. I think they're both phenomenal players. But with Breanna, she's just amazing. I would consider her a generational player the way that she's been able to come in this league and just be successful from the jump from rookie season. It's been really cool to see, along with Asia. So I'll let fans, watching the league make their own decision for themselves.
Yeah, like it's crazy. I think how many times did she win in the WNBA?
Breanna?
Yes.
She's won 2 championships.
Twice. Because I remember, I think it was 20, I don't want to call it a year. I want to say 2017 or maybe 2018. It was maybe her second or third year. And I was watching the story. They were saying she had came back off of injury or something. It was a major injury she had, but she came back and they got through the finals and stuff like that. And I'm just like, yo, to do that in college. And then, it's usually the down moment, how low you can get that determine where your ceiling is when you go up, and when you overcome those mountains, man, it's just great stories for sure. So Las Vegas, I was in the spaces with I want to say it was it was a WNBA preseason spaces.
Okay, yeah.
Right before the season got going.
Yep.
And that was the consensus. Everybody said go to Las Vegas, go to Las Vegas game. That was pretty much the consensus. So it was just funny to hear you say that. So going to Indiana initially, how was that? Coming from being a Cali girl, going to Stanford, Indiana, poof, totally different, right? like a magic trick.
No, for sure. I mean, living in the Midwest was like very different. Indiana was very different from what I'm used to in California, but I actually loved living in Indiana. It was like home to me. I met a lot of great people there. I actually enjoyed living downtown, and usually, downtown is like active. Like it's not like that in Indy. Like it's a nice pace in downtown. You can get to places, you can park. And so I really enjoyed living in Indiana. Playing there was a bit difficult for me. My rookie season, it was the first season after Tamika Catchings. Do you know Tamika Catchings?
Don't.
Okay, that's a new one. Put her on the list. Put her on the list. Yes. Some consider her top 5 greatest player. Yeah, to play in the league. So Tamika Catchings had just finished her almost 20 year tenure with Indiana. And so that year, right when she left the year I came in. And so it was like a whole new identity, like a no Tamika Catchings identity. And so my team struggled. And to this day, Indiana is still struggling. And so it was tough for me, coming from college, being, the top player, to come to the league. I was the only rookie on my team, so it was hard. I was like doing my own struggle alone. And for me to try to adjust, and then it just took me a lot of time for me to adjust to the league. It took me probably 3 years. Those 3 years I was in Indiana took me time. And so it was tough for me basketball wise, but I love the city. I love the experience that gave me. I love the lessons that it taught me, because without me being in Indiana for that time, I wouldn't be the player I am today.
For sure. And what would you say, hindsight, you could kind of have a better outlook than when you were in the moment walking through it. If you had to use one adjective to describe what you learned, what would that adjective, what word would you use to describe overall what you overcame in those years?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say patience. I learned patience. Yes.
My mom always told me when I was a kid, anytime I was rushing around for some or candy this, candy that, or whatever, she would always say patience is a virtue. She always said that. And even to this day, if I show her this clip, she will laugh about it because that's something that stuck with me for real. Patience is a
Yeah.
virtue.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot when you kind of just walk through things one foot at a time. So going to ATL, hey, now we flying high. How was that
That's right.
city? How was that city?
Oh man, ATL. So I was on, it's a crazy story. So I got waived by Indiana after my third year there. And so I was like just training, working hard, free agent. The bubble season had already started, training camp had already started. So I was really just waiting to get picked up. And my agent called me. I was watching Hamilton with my mom. He was like, hey, Atlanta wants to take you. And I was like, all right, cool. She was like, can you be here tomorrow? I was like, sure. So I flew from Bakersfield to the bubble in Florida, long flight. I was in quarantine for like 10 days because I had a quarantine. That was, when COVID was large and rampant. So I had to quarantine for 10 days. And I ended up only being with Atlanta for a week. So I was with Atlanta for a week until they had to waive me because I was just a hardship waiver. They had to waive me for, girls like Glory Johnson and Kalani had to come back. They just had COVID. And so right after that, I got picked up by Minnesota. So I was and I didn't even get to experience Atlanta. So I really want to live in Atlanta. I really want to live there for 1 year. Just want to experience it.
Right, 1 year at least.
Yeah.
Like COVID kind of put everything in a bad position.
Yeah.
Like overall, like the whole bubble thing, the 10-day thing, just to be there for 7 days, it's like it's kind of a headache. I'm telling you. So overall, so Minnesota, how long were you with Minnesota?
I was with them for one season. I was with them after I left Atlanta for that first game. I was with Minnesota for the rest of the bubble season. So I literally didn't have to change hotel rooms or anything. They're just like, yeah, you can stay where you are. Because I was like, we are in the bubble, we either lived in the hotel or you lived in the villas, which was like apartment styles. And so I lived in a hotel. And so, yeah, they called me like 2 days after I got away from Atlanta, like, hey, can you come play today? Like
Wow.
literally no, like time to get ready. Like I literally jumped in the shower, threw on some clothes and are like, yeah, can you come to our game today? I was like, yeah. So I remember I ran on the bus and the team like gave me a whole hand clap because I was like huffing and puffing, trying to make the bus to make the game. And so, yeah, my time with Minnesota was great. Coach Cheryl Reeve, amazing coach. Of course, she's a coach of Maya Moore, and she just demands excellence and she pushes you to be a better player. And that's what I learned with Minnesota. And that was kind of like, I wouldn't say it was my breakout year, but that was a year that I gained my confidence back. And I thank Coach Cheryl and the rest of the coaching staff and my teammates like Sylvia Fowles. Great, another name to know. She really helped me just stay confident while I was playing there in Minnesota, and I ended up having a pretty good season there.
Yeah. So all in all, being a professional, you're starting to learn the next level and how to brand yourself and, starting to move, in larger rooms in terms of just the capacity of the minds. You're around a lot of different people all the time. How did you come about the thought of creating Bird's Eye View podcast? And if did you start it when you was with the Mystics, or did you start it after that? I'm trying. You see how I'm trying to tie it together. Was it in that phase when you got there? Did you have a conversation with somebody like, hey, this is a great idea, or how did that come about all in that year?
Yeah, so I started when I was with the Mystics. I remember I saying I wanted to start a podcast again. I really don't know how that thought came to my head. I know I enjoyed doing it, but I hated the editing. I hated the editing. I hated the, creating the content. Like I did everything for the podcast. It was really hard for me trying to balance. Plus I was playing overseas. So the time difference was crazy, but I knew I wanted to do it again. And so I remember I was having a conversation with one of my, really close friends, Cindy Weiss, in her car. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a podcast again. Would you like to do it with me? And she's like, yeah, for sure. So I want her to be the co-host for my show, but she doesn't like doing all that stuff. She's really good at it. So she was like, yeah, I'll help you out. And so from there, I decided, to start it. I was actually working with a marketing agency. I told them about my podcast. So they kind of helped me find producers. They, helped me find, someone to do the content, social media program. And so I talked it all out. We made a plan, and that's how Bird's Eye View started.
That's what's up. So yeah, with the totality of your overall podcast and stuff, what are you looking to accomplish with the Bird's Eye View podcast?
So starting this podcast, my biggest goal was to be able to educate fans and people about women's basketball. Initially, my podcast was just about overseas basketball because a lot of people don't know about the ins and outs of what us players have to experience. And so I started off with talking about a different element of the overseas game, but this season I want to encompass all basketball. So that's WNBA, overseas athletes unlimited. And so I just want to educate fans, and that's always been my biggest priority. But outside of that, I would love to make this something that's a career of mine. I love talking to people. I love entertaining others. And so I want to have a talk show. So I'm hoping Bird's Eye View, leads me into that direction. And of course, he wants to make some money out of this, and so I know, what I'm talking about. And so, that's my biggest goal, but always, first and forehand, it's always just to educate and to entertain fans.
And that's why I'm having conversations. That's why I reached out to someone like yourself, being an individual who's trying to get more into the WNBA and knowledgeable about the storyline of how the WNBA got up to this point. Having conversations with people like yourself definitely can help me with that, and podcast, and with your podcast, with the guests that you bring on. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people that's more so endowed than myself, and that's what I need. Somebody that's more locked in than I have been. So when I went to my first guest to get on my show was Stephen Enoch, and I was targeting a lot of overseas guys because I know their stories are not going to say more rich, but I just know they have a different story to tell than a general NBA or G leaguer that's still in America that never really left because of the perception or the mentality of what they have to go through to be able to play basketball, and having guys like Demario Mayfield, shout out to him, Stephen Enoch, Amir Hinton, those guys all, playing in Finland and Spain, they all types of places. It's just a blessing to, see these dudes. It shows passion, if you're willing to really take that next step to do all of that stuff just to play basketball. A lot of people kind of afraid of the mentality of leaving the country, but what was your mentality when you knew it was time to take that 13, 12, 15-hour flight?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the mindset is a bit different from the men's mindset because we know we have to go overseas as opposed to the men. I mean, men might know they have to go overseas in order, for them to have opportunity with basketball. But for us, we know that we can't just play in the WNBA if we're not one of the top money makers. And so for me, I always knew overseas was going to happen for me. So I was able to adjust my mindset a little bit more going into my rookie season. But I remember I was flying. I knew nothing about Hungary. I remember my cousin, I asked her, I'm like, she did like a report on Hungary when she was like in 7th grade. And she was like, it's cold out there. That's all I knew about Hungary. So just flying there, I was excited. I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. But it ended up being a very amazing experience for me. I met people that I now consider family. I ended up playing there for 4 years in the same town, same team. And so, it ended up being a really great experience for me and for me to be able to share, with others.
Yeah. So all in all, how many different countries did you explore in that time being a professional overseas and still currently, voyaging and things?
Yeah, woof, it's a lot. I'd say probably in my time playing professionally, I've visited probably 15 different countries.
Wow. And
Yeah.
what would you say was the most what was the most fun or the most memorable?
Sheesh, I love playing in Italy. I love going to Italy. That's always fun for me. Actually, one that was really surprising was Portugal. I thought that was absolutely beautiful. The water, the city is vibrant. And so that's another city that I would love to go back and to just go on vacation, forget basketball, just want to be able to experience, the city. It was absolutely beautiful.
So we're talking about your professional experience and traveling and stuff like that, but that wasn't your first time, leaving American soil. So we're gonna take it back to you said high school was the glory, but when you get the Team USA tag, that's heavy, you know what I mean? So shout out to you with the USA team and all of the experiences you had with that. But let's go to the first moment you found out you're gonna be involved with Team USA. How was that feeling? How did it come about? do you remember where you were? Like, what was the situation when you found out I got accepted with Team USA?
Yeah, I was 16 years old. Maybe I was 15 then. And it was like they had invited me, but it was a call. Like pretty much they did like, hey, if you play basketball, you under 16, come out, girls basketball player, come out to Colorado and come try out. And so there was like 200, 250 girls trying out, trying to, be on this USA team. So it was like a tough tryout because, usually you go to the tryout, you compete against 30, 40 people max, I was competing against, 200 other girls. And so it was tough, but it was really fun. I met a lot of people that I'm friends with till this day. And so I remember when we got down, it's probably like they probably had, I don't know, 25 people left, into the cuts, and they listed the names. They didn't like read them out loud. They listed the names on this wall. We all ran to go see, who made the cut, and my name was on there, and I was just jumping for joy. Just so excited, to be able to represent my country, to be able to be on this super dope team with other amazing athletes. And so it was so cool for me to be on that USA team. And I was so happy when I ended up coming home from that trip. My family did this huge, big USA thing. They had the news come out. And so they just made it a big deal for me. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's the blessings that comes through the hard work. A lot of people, they see the end goal, they see where you ended up, and they try to chase what you got to rather than chasing the things that you did to get there. That's why I like to talk about the practice, effort, the discipline, the dedication, the patience. Patience is a virtue.
Absolutely.
Remember that, y'all. Patience is a virtue. But seriously, though, those are the moments that people got to chase. If you want to, reach those heights and enjoy those moments, don't chase the end goal. Chase the work. If you chase the work more than anybody else, that's what'll get you to the end goal. And that's what I try to tell my little brothers. I got a 14-week-old son. I'm trying to instill that early. Oh yeah, thank you, appreciate it. But you said something about Italy, and I find that awfully strange. Because the career games that you participated in.
Yeah. The world university games. Yeah.
The World University Games, and y'all played Italy in the opening night. You had 22 and 18. That was one of your biggest. This is one of your biggest runs with Team USA, having multiple double doubles, leading the team in field goal percentage, nearly 60% from the field, well over 15 points per game, solid. So, how was that particular tournament? It's ironic you said Italy. I find it ironic.
You did your research because I don't even remember we played. I remember that we played. I think it was Japan. That was like the only team that I remember. But wow, research is impeccable. I am impressed. But yeah, that was really cool for me because I had just came from playing in Stanford. Honestly, I was thinking about transferring. Like I was like, I'm not getting any PT. Much the mindset of kids that have today. They transfer immediately, and I was thinking about transferring. I wasn't playing well. I just think it wasn't a good fit for me. So when I went to go play with USA, it was just like a confidence booster. Like I was balling. And all the previous USA experience I played on, I barely got off the bench. Like I was like almost one of the last ones off the bench. I barely played in any USA teams I played on. And I finally had a coach that believed in me and, had confidence in me, and that allowed me to play well. And so when I had that game, I was so hyped. It was like a breath of fresh air because I was like, man, finally I am experiencing the USA dream. Like this is what I wanted to do, ball on this team, be one of the top athletes on this team, and for us to be able to get a gold medal. And that was it was really big for me.
22 and 18. Those Moses numbers, people don't realize those Moses numbers. You get up to 18, that means you on both sides of the glass. You gotta, and you had another double in that run as well. I think it was 17 and 14 that I seen. So double, and I think it's a shorter game as well too, right? It's a shorter game in the Olympic Games. How long is the game in the Olympics?
I think they were a 10-minute quarters, so they resembled about the same, if not any different from what I was accustomed to. I do remember though I was balling that tournament, but I do remember that I had a chance to win be the champion, be the buzzer beater, whatever. So I got fouled with like 0 seconds off on the clock. We were tied, no seconds left on the clock. All I needed to do was make 1 free throw. I ended up missing both. And I was shook. I was like throwing out curse words. It was really bad, but we ended up winning that game in double overtime. And so I'll just always remember that tournament, that World University Games. It was a very great time for me, very memorable, and really kind of like a catalyst to me boosting my confidence to be a great basketball player at Stanford and on.
So when you got to that moment, see, look, a lot of people, we watch games and we talking from the fan perspective, and we just like, oh, you could have did this and you should have did that. But if you put that same person in the church league in that same situation with 3 people in the stands, they'll be more nervous than the cat in the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, what does that feel like? You know, a game on the line, you in the bottom of the 4th quarter, you're tired. You know, at this point, it's will and execution from what you practice day in and day out. You know, so what is that? I'm sure the butterflies. You know, you trying not to think
never
about it.
Resemble that moment until you get there. It's just like no practice. Your coach might be like, "Oh, if you miss this, free throw, you got 2 suicides," and of course that makes you nervous. It doesn't compare to what I experienced when I was on the line, and it was maybe I would have made it if I had at least the opponents lining up with me or my teammates lining up. It was like they were all just both teams were just watching me shoot the free throw from the side. So it was like shooting a technical shot, when everyone's behind and it's just you. That's what it was. But every time everyone was on the sideline. So it was just extreme pressure. No one can prepare you for that moment. And I remember I was just limp, like my arms just so weak. Like I was just so nervous. That's how nervous I was. Like where your body is just, I wasn't even tense. I was just loose. And so I remember I missed it short, I think. The first one and the second one went, a little bit, off the rim. So it was just nothing could compare to that experience. I'll never get that nervous in my life, until years later, when I was doing something outside of basketball. But it's an experience you can't even compare it to.
Can't duplicate. It's just funny. I just wanted to ask that because some people, you just try to make it go fast. Like, I'm not gonna think if I sit here and dribble the ball 3 times and I look left and I look right, then it's gonna sit on me. You know what I mean? I'm gonna just walk up here, 1 dribble, shoot it, and try to go. So I know that moment, like, because I was a drum major. Like I didn't march. I didn't play basketball. I marched in the band. That was my thing. Okay. And if you ever seen a drum major on the East Coast, not the West Coast, the East Coast,
very different.
It's a lot. It's a lot more pressure. Like when you got 100 people and you kind of like the only one in the front, doing a long routine like that took 3 days to learn and 3 more days of practice to actually like get to a point of executing to a T. So once you get to that Friday night at the game and that Saturday at the competition or parade or whatever, every single time you get there, it's like everything that heartbeat is going crazy. You got to and then this will make it worse. You got to stand still. Like they make you stand still and you just looking at everything. You got to soak it all in. Whistle. Oh man, it's a scary moment. So
I love that.
I can't 1,000 people in your face. But overall, I'm sure basketball taught you a lot of things and taking you a lot of places. Overall, what would you say to somebody who's trying to get in your position, in the position that you once was in, or trying to even exceed where you have gotten to as a basketball player? What would be some of your advice for that 10, 11, 12-year-old young lady coming up trying to get down with the grind?
The biggest advice is for me is just to always have fun. Always have fun. It's so cliche. Everyone's like, always have fun, but like truly, because when you get to the big times, when you get to, when you start making money for this and this is a profession, if you don't have fun with it, at least for me personally, you're not going to do as well. And you're just not going to enjoy the experience, and so it just makes it really hard for you to do what you initially loved, that when you were that young girl in the backyard playing with your brother and your dad and stuff. And so that was fun for you. And then, then as you get older, you start to take it more seriously. And it just really puts a hamper on your experience, really puts a hamper on how you can develop your game because you're not having as much fun with it. So that's my biggest advice, is just to always keep it light, keep basketball light. Remember, it's a game. And of course, it's something that we take seriously. And this is what we want to do, professionally. But, if we're not having fun with it, then really like ball is just gonna be, it's gonna be really tough for you.
For sure. And I appreciate that. Erica McCall, y'all. I really
Thank you.
appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on the show for real. You're the first, you're not the first professional, but you're the first female professional. So I think we could definitely do that. And you were the first NBA or WNBA player to come on the RissKy Powerhouse and spread the love and, drop those gems. So I really appreciate that. I'm really trying to push this thing to higher heights, and through media, it's just somebody talking to the next person. It's always a conversation that gets you to the next person. So seeing you grow your podcast as well, you're gonna see me a lot more active on the media. I got a couple people that run our media, so between Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything is going with the RissKy Powerhouse. You're gonna see a lot more going with your stuff, because I actually appreciate trying to get more knowledge out. You said the reason for the Bird's Eye View podcast is to enlighten people on the overseas players, what players go through overseas, and as well as learn about the women's basketball game. So I'm gonna remember that. And if somebody want to get on with WNBA, try to figure it out with me. I got a couple of homeboys in the fantasy chat. No, but we really talk about the
I
WNBA.
love that. I love it. I love it.
And we try to get it going. So direct them to your channel. You get a couple subscribers tonight or tomorrow, you know what I mean? And it's all about growth and everybody getting going. So I appreciate you coming through. Maybe we run into each other at WNBA All-Star Chicago. I'm gonna try to get out there.
I'm trying to get out there. I was just talking about how I need to get my ticket, especially with my sister's playing. I gotta, go out there. I can't miss that. So
yeah, definitely. So we're gonna be out there in the arena. I appreciate you coming through. It's Kendall Bishop with the RissKy Powerhouse. We got Erica McCall. Blessings.
Thank you.